This is a case study of how easy it is to fall into the chronic pain cycle, persistent pain cycle, even in someone who's really fit and healthy, wants to become vulnerable and something questions their identity and not given a sense of ease around that. The risks are there for someone to fall into that pattern. So see if this case study helps you understand how it can happen to anyone. This is a case study of a 75-year-old man who, essentially a healthy guy, very healthy, very fit, very independent, and no real issues going on in his life. A couple of years ago, complains of right shoulder pain, just radiating from his shoulder down to his upper arm. No trauma, no obvious physical overload. He climbed regularly, has done for many years. So nothing happened to warrant that onset of pain. Now, at the same time, he was advised to go on statins. Now, this isn't a video about medication and statins. I'm not commenting on that per se, but because they can be, that's for the doctor or the GP to decide if that's relevant. But the statins in this case, it was suggested to him that he start taking them. And he'd been offered them 10 years ago, and he felt so well that he thought, well, I don't need them. 10 years later, he goes back to the same person, checks his weight, height and age at one of these Wellman clinics, and the lady says, well, what about statins? You're more at risk, and it's 20% this and 10% of the other, and blah, blah, blah. And he decided to start taking them. Now, he developed shoulder pain at the time, around that time, and he thought maybe it's linked to some of the side effects, so presented back to the doctor and said, oh, well, we'll stop. Wasn't happy about the idea of taking them, felt not coerced, but the evidence given to him to take them was about the dangers of not taking them. And that was his decision, and so he took them, got some pains, which he can get apparently, side effects, but so the doctor said, oh, we'll stop taking them now for 3 to 6 months, but his pain persisted. Okay, and then he started thinking, well, it's an old injury from 30 years ago. But remember, this arm's been fine for 30 years. He's been climbing, he's been doing all things, he's run a business, he's been absolutely fine. So we often think, why is the pain still there? I've stopped taking these tablets, and so I haven't got any side effects, but I haven't done anything physical recently. But I did have an injury 30 years ago, but now it might be paying me back. That doesn't happen from a structural point of view. If it was a very traumatic injury and it was traumatic enough for him to remember it from 30 years ago, and it's got fear and frustration and kind of concerns attached, if there's a time in his life there's more fears and frustrations and concerns, like something about taking a tablet that might question his identity about how healthy he is or could be or may be in his 75th year, could you see how that could possibly trigger pain? Because it can. And in the absence of anything else, I was very suspicious of that as an origin. Because what happened after that, he went to see the orthopaedic consultant, he had an x-ray, had an ultrasound scan, showed normal age-related changes. He said, you don't really need much from me, but I'll give you a steroid injection. It helps for about a month. And there's a pharmacological effect, it switches the kind of receptors off, but then the pain came back. So it's not the answer to that particular pain, because the origin of that pain isn't injury based if you go back to 2 years ago. So his pain persists. When he's had it for so long, and then thought that he had to kind of keep going with that, came back to this question of statins again, and because he now almost detached the shoulder from the statins, I hadn't made that connection and confirmed it in any way, then he was advised to restart the statins. Now he got some other symptoms, these gastric symptoms, so he decided to stop the statins again. But at that point, he then got his left-sided shoulder pain, same distribution, no trauma, nothing at all. Now this is a kind of a mirroring phenomena. So think of the system behind that as almost, it becomes scared it comes threatened, lightens up an old neural pathway and experience that was similar to the fear presented at the time, and it triggers a pain, if you like, in his shoulder. But because the person's carrying on with the behaviours and carrying on with the uncertainty, it's easy enough for the brain to mirror those symptoms in the opposite arm. So he's now got two shoulders that hurt, and then he starts to stop his climbing, stop some of his activities. It hurts to lay on, it hurts on either side. He's now stopping his activity. He re-stopped the statins again, has decided that's not for him, that's up to him to decide. But it's twice he's been very uncertain about taking them. He's had a side effect or an unpleasant experience that he thinks is related to it, and it's persisted. So he's 2 or 3 years down the line now, and he's got two painful shoulders and can't do the activities he wants to do. We know there's some degenerative changes there, but these degenerative changes were there for years and years, and he's been climbing and doing everything. But now he's frightened to reach back and do, and it's stopping him accessing the thing that should make him feel safe and enjoyable and connected with his friends. So essentially there's nothing wrong with his shoulders, and yet the pain's firing there now, but it's been tripped by another switch. Now I presented that to him, and so he moves his arms and it hurts. We did something in that session to say, this is the rationale behind what you're saying about your pain, and this is the logical reason that it appears to be there. And his pain turns off. And as soon as it turns off and it makes sense to him, he says, yeah, I get it. We got him to take some deep breaths before he lifted his arm. And the pain he had from lifting his arm before when he was holding his breath isn't there the same way. Now that can't be related to structure. You know, I can't really. And you look at the history of it. Don't get fooled by pain. It's dead easy to follow the rabbit, but it takes you down rabbit holes where there's nothing there. So this guy will be totally pain free. He will be back climbing. We look at a 4 to 6 week phase of rehabilitation for that, but we don't need 4 to 6 weeks of tissue healing because there hasn't been any trauma. We have to snap that fear cycle, accept he's been frustrated he can't get back to climbing, so he doesn't go back today. You don't go through, you have to go through the fear but not through the frustration. You have to alleviate the fear and hold the reins on the frustration and show someone the way back in a way that's kind to their nervous system, understands what's happened to them, allows them the space to do it, gives the person the responsibility for the control of that, and recovery can happen. But it just shows you how something can upset the apple cart and send someone into a downward spiral that's it started to make him feel depressed. He's physically less conditioned than he was, and essentially this is a healthy man just being tipped by a momentary pill-taking suggestion a couple of times. And it makes me really question some of the intent behind how people are prescribed certain things based on an age or a height or a weight or a this, when I wonder whether it's driven by an agenda that's not right for the patient. So hopefully this gentleman's got some agency back about his recovery, because I'm confident that the success he's seen in session 1 will continue, and this guy will be pain free.